Do you know this site is Norse? Basically, it shows you the attacks live. So the cybercrime attacks. Yeah, if you look like that, it's quite funny for a speech. What's more interesting is that you can, for instance, select some type of attacks and see what attack is the most popular. Of course, you see the countries. Some people ask it, why don't you include Donald Trump tweets as attacks for cyber? But it is, yeah. That can be because the damage can sometimes be more important than the damage made by cyber attack. But okay, that's my only joke on the US, sorry for that. There is a funny story about that. Is that 2 years ago, is it 2 years ago? The nurse company was investigated by a suspicion that the US government, only a suspicion, so I don't speak about facts, but about only gossips. So that the US government asked to the nurse company to insert more attacks coming from other suspect countries, you know, like China, North Korea, to make them a bit more dangerous for the, at least making the perception of those countries a bit more dangerous. So that's one key that you can keep for this evening, is that never believe what you see on the internet. Of course, it can be something interesting for some studies, but it's not the real world. It's only a representation of a part of the real world. So, and you will need my glasses to run the PowerPoint. Yes, slideshow. Okay, let's go. And I will start with a small survey, a very quick one. So the first question is, and you will move a bit today, I hope so, for the first question. Who is using Internet of Things? Raise your hands. Yeah, wow, impressive. If you ask that in other countries, it's quite less, I think. Okay, good. So I will say 30%, something like that. So no, yes, raise your hands, and I know that some people are IT specialists, so you probably will be able to answer. Who is using IP6? Okay. The people who didn't raise their hand, are you because you are a bit lazy or not awake today, or because all of us are using IP6, or you are using a whole version of Windows, or because all the modern operating systems are using IP6 by default and by automatic mode. It means that if your provider don't provide you an IP6 connectivity, yes, the problem is probably less dangerous than in the other case, that they provide you the IP6 connectivity. But if you are using Internet of Things and IP6 and you don't know how to protect yourself, then you are in danger. A simple case is the mother wanting to put an IP cam to monitor the baby in the baby room, and you have a predator on the internet having a straight access to the baby room to look what's happened. So that's not the things that you expect from the technology, but that's the things that the criminal are finding in the technology. And somebody asked the question as, what can we expect as risks? How can we protect ourselves? But the first question is, what are other people wanting to get from you? And if you look to the digital skills, and it's from the statistic from this morning, if you look at the levels, and of course it's EU-wide, it means that from Finland it will be probably higher about the knowledge, especially in this room, because a lot of people know that they have Internet of Things, so it's impressive statistic for me already. But if you look to the criminal side, and that's based on the investigations, interrogations, and our searches, and of course intelligence gathered by the colleagues and by my own experience. So the first thing is that when I started for the cybercrime, we are most speaking about script kiddies. And to be honest, at that time we were script kiddies too in the law enforcement. But nowadays we are speaking about mafias. So they are well organized. They have a research and development department, able to develop their own malware. And if you look, for instance, on the attacks against the e-banking systems, quite popular latest years, when the banking system was modified, they were aware that the modification occurs. They go to the research and development department and they say, oh, you have to change the malware in order to have access because they change the things. A simple case is that the banking were detecting the move of money because usually when the criminals go to your account, they steal all the money. So having all the money going in one money transfer was suspect, and so on and so on. So what they did on the criminal side, they changed to fly below the radars. So they leave €5 on your bank account. So it was not suspect anymore. So the bank now changed and to say, okay, but if it's €5, you have to consider that as suspect and so on. And at some point, the research and development department says that's too much work to change that all the time. So they define that the malware will look at a specific place to know what amount needs to stay on the bank account. And that's all the war exists between the criminals and all the world working for cybersecurity. Because most of the people that you will encounter will speak about cybersecurity. And again, and that's why I'm here today, cybersecurity without the component, essential component, fighting against cybercrime is a nonsense. If you visit Belfast, which is one of the cities in EU where there is still a wall, you will see the concrete wall separating the two parts of Belfast. And over the concrete wall, you have fences. And over the fences, you have other fences. That's the concept of cybersecurity without acting against cybercrime. Because you can put a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of human resources in defending yourself. But if you don't protect yourself by sharing with the law enforcement, and for the private company who did that well, keeping the traces in order to allow prosecution, allowing the fear to change side. Why are we fear about being attacked? The criminal should be afraid about being catched. So we have to change that, and the only way to change that is all of us being involved in the same approach. So thinking about what can I do to be better protected and to fight the cyber criminals. So research and development department, the data manager, so they don't have to be compliant with the GDPR. They don't care about it. They collect your data. And sometimes you think, why should I be interested in my data? They are not interested in your data. They're interested in your data correlated with the data from other people. So they will allow to gather so using some artificial intelligence because they have the resource to do it. And they will manage a way to improve the knowledge, not about you, but about the company you are working for, about your behaviors, about your family. And so they can attack other people than you using the data, the small piece of data that they collected by compromising your computer. They have human resource department. I will give an example about the money mules. Of course, money mules are not so more needed now because the cryptocurrencies, but I will come back on that later. And they have an IT department because the criminal organization are using a lot of people not IT skilled. So they have forums, they have an help desk. So if you want to be part of the criminal organization making some bad things on the internet, you can contact the help desk and to get help from them. And sometimes they provide you help on how to be protected against the action of the police, saying, and you have to delete the paper that you got from Western Union by transferring the money, and not eating it, but probably putting it in the fire and so on. And they massively, and of course the recent news are confirming that, they are massively using the social networks as vectors to spread the malware, to spread fake news, but also to collect data easily by creating fake profiles. So be honest, if you are contacted for the men by a nice lady, for the women by a nice man or whatever, and we say, oh, do you want to be my friend? Of course, you don't have any friend. That's my case. So that's what I was never contact. And I always say no, no. But most of you will say yes. But what's behind the picture? It's exactly the same as the north side. The picture is only a picture. Did you meet this person in the real life? Probably never. And you will never meet it. We will come back on that again. And another very trendy topic is the e-crime as a service, or the crime as a service. So you want to do bad things, but sometimes doing bad things is a bit more complicated than expected. So you will rent a criminal to do it. And you can rent a lot of criminals. You can rent a criminal to do cyber attacks because you want that competitor company will be out of the work during 1 week. Or you want to kill somebody because you can rent a killer to kill somebody into real life on the internet. And there is crowdfunding sometimes. So you can start to say, I propose to kill that person, and I put already $5. And if most people are putting more money, at some point, a killer will say, okay, that's a bit more than the price of the bullet. I will earn my life doing that, and they will kill somebody using the darknet. So people will say, okay, internet is too dangerous, so I will never be connected. Okay, good idea. But you will use a photocopier machine to copy the paper because you don't want to write 10 times the same things, like we did when I started the police, you know, with the five levels that you have to push on the typing machine so hard that the fifth one is well impressed. So we have marvelous copy machine. And for that, because you trust the copy machine, you are copying some documents, including confidential documents. For the students, your research. For the industry secrets, and it's confidential. We did it in the police too. Confidential case. Investigation, very important. And then, of course, yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't work. So you call somebody to repair the photocopier. And they are coming, and they change, and they are leaving, and everything works again. You are happy. They are happy too, because you have a memory card, or you have a hard drive in each of the copiers now. So it can be confidential. But if you look on the hard drive, you have all the documents copied in the last months. We are doing that when we are doing our searches for, I don't know, money laundering or fiscal fraud, tax fraud, and so on. We are looking there, and then we find the document that the people takes time to destroy or to put in the shredding paper thing. It takes a lot of time if you want to destroy a lot of pages. But we go to the photocopier and we get it. It's easy. It's easy for criminals to get your information and you are not connected. So you don't have the choice. You will be connected anyway. Oh, but you know that you will use passwords to be better protected. Of course. I take it during a health search. That's the real password. And more worse than that is that all the users are using the same user ID and the same password. What's the problem? In case of compromission, in case of somebody stealing the data, who was accessing the computer at that moment? Oh, the admin. But who is the admin? And 10, 20 people are using the same password, but there. Several consequences about the password policies. If you look on your site, and the IT people know it, is Pastebin, you can look for yourself. And if you type your credit card number, don't do it. Give me your credit card number and the CVV code and the expiration date. I will manage that well. But if you looked at, you will see if it is compromised or not. So what's basically Pastebin is diffusing all the data stolen and putting it in front of everybody. Of course, all the data are not published. But sometimes the people say, okay, I will publish it on Pastebin, only 10% of the data that I stole. And so you will see that I have all your data, and the people who have to pay to protect the rest. And of course, other sites are not so. And and if you look at the news, it is not 1 week without a news site being compromised with the password stolen. That's the Ashley Madison, that's a few years ago. And I always look to the creativity of the people when they have the need to create a password. Of course, it's a dating site. So the type of password is a bit depending of the context. So for instance, so yeah, I will not, yeah, you can read. But what's interesting is the first and the second one on the left column is, I suspect that at one moment, Ashley Madison says your password needs to have at least 6 characters. So all the people who want to register using 5 characters, we are not able to do it, and they use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the police, we cannot count until 7. We are limited to 6, you know. So no, to 8, because we need octal for the binary approach too. And the people who use password as password are really clever. So that's the reality. That's how the people protect themselves. You will see that's not a problem. It's only the dating site. Yes, but when the dating site is compromised and the password are decoded, they have not only your password, they have your email address. And you are probably registered on other sites with the same password and the same email address. And so then now begins the game. Finding all what they can collect from you, and not only your private sexual life, but also your bank accounts, your private email exchanges, getting access to your Facebook profile and publishing things on your name, on behalf of you, and so on. So it becomes quite easy once you have one password to dig a bit and to guess the other ones used by the people. That's one of the reasons of the new legislation in EU called the GDPR, which is in force from the 1st of May. It means that a site compromised, in the past they do it. When there is a compromission, they contact the industry partners. But the users will never want that the password were compromised. Now, from the 1st of May in EU, and all EU activities, enterprises and public sector, they will have to warn you, we got a data breach, your password is compromised. And then you can react and say, my God, my password is used on 20 other sites. And then you can start and change your password on the 20 other sites. And please, not the same password for all the sites. So yeah, okay. So the other solution is, okay, I'm protected by a good password. And of course, I don't want to share everything. So I will share only what's needed. No more than that. Okay. I put the pictures. It's not very related with the topic, but yes, it's about social networks. All the people are complaining about those people reading their smartphone in the metro. But look, it was years ago, and they were looking to the newspaper. If you want not to be shocked, close your eyes during 2 minutes or 5 minutes. That's the real story. It's Felindra. So she's a doctor. And she was a doctor, and she was acting against the danger of drugs in South America, so against the cartels. And of course, she used the social networks to explain why drugs are very dangerous. Of course, the profile on Twitter is anonymous. But criminal organizations and the cartels have IT resources. They can hire hackers if they don't have in-house hackers. So the cartels found them, kill Felina, and on the Twitter account, post a picture of the dead body. Only to say, okay, you want to attack the cartels, that's what happened. So being fully anonymous on the internet is not easy at all. It's a chance for us in the law enforcement. Of course, it complicates a bit the research, It takes more time, but when we want to catch somebody, will it be anonymous or not, we will find somebody. Because when you think to be anonymous, you always leave some traces. And the traces can only be something very strange, like that you are connecting only during the night. Speaking, okay, in the winter, the night in Finland is a bit longer than the night in Spain. But we can analyze your behavior on the internet. And having this type of information and collecting other types of information can help to profile the criminal. I already spoke about hacking as a service. And that's an example of the alphabet market. So who is connected on the dark web sometimes? Who is buying things on the dark web? Who is selling things on the dark web? So do we have the names of the list? Yes, okay, so okay, good. One investigation solved. So anyway, Alphabet is closed because Alphabet was seized by a joint action. And of course, yes, the friends in the US saying, yeah, with the accent, sorry for that. Yeah, we catch the criminals. Yeah, we are the best of the world. Yes, but not alone. Because you have the Dutch police and Europol working in conjunction. But you see, they put it behind, I don't know why, but yeah, okay. But anyway, that's a coordinated joint action between all police forces. And they seized two sides, Alphabet and Hansa. It was a problem for my association because we just developed a dark web course. And to exercise, so we're using ANSA and Alphabet. So we have to redo all the exercises with other dark websites. So the dark web is not fully anonymous because to be in the Tor network, you have to be connected with a real IP address on the internet. Of course, you are not supposed to be reached by that IP address on the internet. Another important thing is that you have to only use trusted sources. Imagine you are walking, you are walking in the city center of Helsinki, and you are just in front of a pharmacy, and the pharmacian is coming out with a cup full of small pills, and say, "It's for free. Take it." No, only the blue one, only the blue ones, but not the others. You will never do that. But most of the people are thinking that because you can download it for free on the internet, it's safe. It's exactly the same situation. And of course, open source and freeware are sometimes very good, but not all the time. Especially if you want to download freeware, do it from the real site and not from a site getting money by making advertising and so on. We had cases that the criminals get access to the source code. Of course, most of the open source code is open, so it's quite easy. And then they make a fork. A fork is only making a new version. But they don't say it's a criminal version of the tool, of the software. And then in that software, they include some other piece of software code to download very dangerous malware on the computer, for instance, to dig for cryptocurrencies, bitcoins. So it's important that you trust the sources. It's exactly the same situation when you receive an email. Oh, nice email. So I don't have my glasses, but I read it all the time saying, well, yes, it's very interesting. They say, okay, you have done to work, you will get a lot of money. Okay, most of you will never answer to that email. Oh, money and almost nothing to work. Yes, I'm already in the police, so okay, why not? And then you have an address, and you can sometimes have a picture. And wow, nice. Wait, I will answer anyway to know a bit more. You know, that's the one click. One click is not dangerous, and it's free so far. And so the communication go away. And that's what the criminals are using, or to steal your money straight, or to recruit you, like it is the case here as Money Mule. Of course, Money Mule is less popular for something that I will cover a bit later, and Money Mules are sometimes interested by getting a percentage when they receive the money in cash and they go to Western Union and they transfer the money again. And there is not only one Money Mule in the chain, but you have a real chain. So you have 2 or 3 money mules. So for the investigation, it's interesting because we are traveling in all the world to follow the money, which is one of the way to avoid the problem from the IT crime, which is using anonymous IP address and so on. And sometimes the people who are recruited as money mules don't get money at all in the operation because they are in love. And you know, when you are in love, you do the thing for free. So yeah, I'm ready to do it. Anyway, we did the investigation. Of course, it's money laundering. That's the real one. So don't forget the picture. And that's why money mules are less and less used, because the problem with the money mules, they don't all the time put the money back to the criminals. So they keep sometimes the money for them, which is quite dangerous because they can be killed. But they have a new system now, which is the bitcoins. And that's an example of a bitcoin on paper. So the 3D code is electronic evidence because it's a unique number for that bitcoin. Who is using bitcoins? Where are the rich people or for no, less rich now? Okay. But yeah, the last times it was quite interesting. So don't buy bitcoins now. You have to buy it years ago because it was a good operation. But yeah, that's the way that the criminals are using to do money laundering. And however, we can trace the bitcoins because the transaction is not secret. But they use, are you using mixers? Yes? Whoa. Okay, and the mixers are a bit like the money mules, but it is automatic. So you pay a bit the mixer, and the mixer will produce more anonymity on your bitcoins. So again, the criminals are using a technology, which is a technology which is by conception not criminal, but they straight see in that technology a way to be better in their work, to be more efficient in their work, and to get more money value for the money invested. So what are the main challenge that we encounter from the law enforcement side? So the first one is that when I started, we are speaking only about computers because mobile phones, it's quite easy. You have only the list of the calls and the register numbers in the address book, and that's all. No, a smartphone is like a computer, exactly like a computer. And everybody have one. It means that in all cases, we have at least one piece of IT item to investigate, which is quite difficult because encryption and so on. I will come back on that. Then we have another problem is the evolution of the technology. What I learned 15 years ago is still true, but no more used. I named that the knowledge obsolescence. So the concept is that if you think that a student in IT security, what you will learn during your university time will be the real background of your work, forget it. It will help you to keep up to date yourself, your real knowledge. So you have to fight all the days to keep you up to date. Otherwise, forget that work because it is important because the technology forget you and you will be obsolete quite quickly. Another problem that we face is the political decision, and the political decision is only based on statistics or really severe drama. Then the people decide. Like you had in 2007, I think, in Estonia, a major cyber attack. Do you remember? And they go in border control. It means that they close all the communication. So there were Estonian internet and the rest of the world internet, which is quite convenient for the rest of the world who don't have things to do with Estonia, but not so convenient with Estonia. And they keep that during, I think, several days. Then they decide to react, and Estonia invest a lot in cybersecurity and so on. But if you look to on how some countries are collecting statistics, for instance, in some countries, if the law enforcement police officer needs to fill the statistic checkbox for cybercrime, in some country there is only one checkbox. It means if somebody is stealing my computer, it's cybercrime. If somebody is attacking with a cyber attack a nuclear power plant, it's the same checkbox, cybercrime. So how can you decide at political level where you have to put the priorities if you don't have a good overview of what's happened? Of course, you can rely on what's existing at international level. And for that, of course, entities like Europol, I will come back on that, are doing an impressive work, and that's the case for Interpol too. But where are the numbers coming from the member states? So if there is no a good statistical approach, there is no possible decision. And without any strategy, we can do nothing. And we have to be prepared, because it is at the beginning of my work as computer forensic expert, it was quite easy to see the laptop, what we call a dead box, because the laptop was no more running. And most of the time it wasn't a laptop, it was a desktop computer. Analyzing the hard drive and so on. Now we are facing a lot of other issues. So you have here now cloud forensics. Data on the cloud are partially on the laptop, on the desktop, partially somewhere on the internet. And of course, if we say on the internet, it's not in the clouds, but on real physical servers, but somewhere and not always in the same country that you are working. So you have to do a lot of other things that only seizing a dead box. And I will come back on that major challenge called live data forensics. Live data forensics is analyzing a computer alive. It means that the computer is running. But then we have a problem. When is the computer running? At the first time of the intervention of the law enforcement. It means we are coming on a place, there is a computer running. My God, I will call an expert. Yes, no problem. He will come, 2, 3, 4 hours, 2 days. I don't know, but the computer is running. Come, it's urgent. But those experts have a lot of work. And because in all the crimes, and not only IT crimes, there is an IT part and probably a running computer. They cannot be everywhere at the same time. So we have to find a solution. Speak about that a bit later. Another major challenge is that it's good to catch some traces, but doing that or nothing is the same if the evidence is not accepted in front of court. Does somebody want to explain the difference between a trace and an evidence? No? I will be tempted to challenge the private company, but I will not do it. Yes? Yes? That's almost the process. We can compare with the fingerprints. What the fingerprint is, it's a trace. And to become an evidence presented in front of court, we have to describe it. So first, description is, where do we find the fingerprint? Is it inside the window or outside the window? Is it on the fridge or in the bedroom? We have to describe how we captured the fingerprint, which is acquisition of the trace. So there are several ways to, with the powder or with some gel and so on. And then we have to document all the processes to the moment that we have something to present, and then, you are right, it becomes the evidence. So an evidence always includes a trace, but the trace is not always becoming an evidence because people are not always handling it correctly. And believe me, it's not easy. Of course, seizing a computer, shut down computer, quite easy to do. But nowadays, with the encryption, forget to get something out of the computer. But live data forensics, it means the computer is running with what will I start first making the copy of the memory, or getting the files from the cloud, or other options? And everything needs to be justified, explained in the report. And law enforcement people like, driving car very fast with the blue light and the sound and shooting, they like it, and arresting people, sometimes interrogating people, finding the criminals, but reporting is quite boring. Not only for law enforcement people, but for them especially. Boring. And so if it is boring, you try to keep that as short as possible. But then the investigation can be a real large investigation, taking 2 years. And the work done can take, only on forensics, IT forensics, can take 2 or 3 months. And then everything is coming in front of court. And the judge, in only one sentence, can say, okay, I declare this evidence as non-acceptable. Only because there is a small mistake or lack of documentation into reporting. So reporting is boring, yes, but reporting is essential. And not only for law enforcement. Cyber attacks. Who are the people facing the first in front of the cyber attacks? The IT people from the company, from the victim. And what's the main aim of those people is putting everything on production. They don't care about the traces. And they don't care about that the trace become evidence at some point. And that's why you need, in those cases, to also start to, or to law enforcement, or to the industry, to be sure that the traces become evidence. You will say, yeah, but what's the purpose? I don't care. Everything is on production back, so everything is running well and smooth. But don't forget, we started with one concept. We have to change the fear side. We have to make the criminals afraid to attack your systems. If we don't prosecute them, they will never be afraid. Impunity is something which is one of the key concepts of IT crime. They don't care about, there will never be a problem. So that's why it's essential to put all this reporting, including from the people who are not from law enforcement, not from specialized company in IT crime or computer forensics, but at least to report what you do very accurately. And last but not least, of course, if we want to cooperate, we have to follow the laws. And the laws are basically at national level. We don't have so many international laws. Only a few ones, I will come back on that. But on the side of the criminals, it's very, very exceptional that the criminal is attacking the victim in the country where he is. For several reasons. Only opportunism, because the victim is not in the same country, or by strategy, because they know that it will be quite complicated for the investigation to trace back the criminal due to lack of international cooperation. Now, we want to collaborate. The problem is, how can we handle things? And again, we are coming back on the quality of the evidence. If the evidence is poor quality, it can be accepted in one country and not accepted in another country, despite the fact that it was seized legally and so on. The problem is documentation again. There are a lot of other issues and challenges for law enforcement, but I will not cry in front of you because I'm adult and I don't want to make you sad, and I want that you leave the room with a positive feeling. So I have to work a bit. So that's on one side all the things, and on the other side one thing which can do all what the other are doing. So playing music, keeping your agenda, writing text, everything is now possible with only this piece of hardware combined with a piece of software and some other additional softwares. And for us, it's not easy. Because when we are searching for traces and we are searching for electronic traces, yeah, okay, you can hide things. Not you, because you are not criminals, except that the two who are using bitcoins and surfing on the dark web that are already well spotted in in the room. But the memory is now becoming smaller and smaller. You can hide it everywhere, and believe me, everywhere. So sometimes it's not so funny to be a police officer and to wait that the evidence come back from the body of somebody who hit it. But it ever come back. So that's type of things that we are searching for. Of course, sometimes it's not so easy. Because if you make a horse search and you find that during the horse search, okay, take Rio, okay, funny, very tender, okay, next one. Of course, if you find that, it's a better indication. They have the same one with Barbie dolls, but it's less politically correct. So I prefer to show the sorry for the protection of animals, but that animal don't exist in reality. It's only a puppet. Of course, yeah, okay. Now I know that it's probably a USB thumb drive, and there is a potential electronic evidence on it. That's the real one. That's like Playmobil. So most of you are quite young, but who have children here? Raise your hands. Okay, yeah, it's not, you are not so proud to have children apparently. Who have children with one Playmobil only? You know, that should be very surprising. And the people who have the children with only one Playmobil will never raise their hand because they feel a bit ashamed because, oh, my poor children, I will buy a second one. Usually, there is a box full of Playmobil. So I was once, so in Belgium, there is an investigation judge. It's a bit like the prosecutor, but with special powers. And when the case is very important, the investigation judge is coming during the house search himself on site. Like when we are, and in that case, we are making the house search in a lawyer house. So it was a very sensible thing with football matches and so on. Okay. And then he came and I was on the ground playing with Playmobiles during my duty time. So I say, so Mr. Vandermeer, what are you doing with the Playmobiles? Yeah, Mr. the Judge, I'm searching for electronic evidence. And it should be easy if they have only, or no children at all, or children with only one Playmobil. Cruel parents. And so you will find a Playmobil, straight you say, okay, it's a USB thumb drive. But then you have a box with 100 of them. So you have to, and sometimes you broke real toys which are not USB thumb drive, and then you make the children crying and so on. So that's an illustration of the start of medicine with autopsy. And then only a few words about the concept of the rule of law. Rule of law is essential. If rule of law is not respected, it means that we are not in democratic countries. And rule of law is a component of the justice. So a good justice needs rule of law. Respected from all sides, except from the side of criminals, but anyway, they don't respect rules at all, so that's not a problem. But law enforcement needs to respect the rule of law. But we are faced, what's the concept of the rule of law? One of the concepts is that each finding, every finding, may be discussed or challenged in front of court. And of course, the work done by the investigator needs to be so well done that it will be quickly solved and they are going to the next challenging. But if we can seize things, which is quite easy, we have to explain. I give the comparison with the fingerprints. Fingerprints is quite, no, everybody knows about what's a fingerprint, matching and so on. And not because you are looking to the TV, but because it's something since 200 years, quite popular and well known by everybody. But what about electronic evidence? What about a cookie? Not the cookie, the biscuit, but what about the cookies? So is it IT? Where are your students? One student can answer to the definition of a cookie? Yeah, you want to try. You will not be punished. Yet. Yeah, but that's not accurate, but very vague. That's the way that you answer to the exams when you didn't never learn that and you were not attending the course. Yeah, it can be accepted, and you have 0.5 on 20 points because on marks. Yeah, okay. No, but what's important is that the cookie is very strange because it's asked by the website and by the domain, and is created by the browser. And most of the people think that the website creates the cookie, which is not the case. And explain that in front of code. That's a good example of interpretation. The question is, if the law enforcement don't explain it accurately, who will do it? Oh, the prosecutor? No, because his specialty is law. Or the judge at the court? No, he will judge, but he will not explain. Somebody will do it. The expert hired by the defense of the suspect. And the problem is that nowadays, most of the suspects are guilty, from my point of view. But the defense cannot play on other things than the procedure. That means that they will try to find where there is a problem in the process. Was the evidence well handled? Or do we have only a trace, which cannot be considered as an evidence? And after that, what about the interpretation? And then if you say the cookie was created by the website visited, means that the judge looked to the expert. He is not expert at all. The risk is that if you are doing that for blood crimes, so in front of a jury, not only the cookie will become something in doubt, but all your other findings will be in doubt. And sometimes a guilty person will be free after the judgment because lack of accuracy, but not in the way that the trace was acquired, but on the way that the interpretation was provided. I have to be ashamed myself. In Belgium, we had a case more than 10 years ago about dioxin. It was only trucks supposed to transport only fat of animals, dead animals and so on, and that they used to make food for animals. But one truck was used one time to get oil from car engines. And so, of course, that's not the same, and dioxin goes into food of the chicken, and Belgium was prohibited to sell chicken during 2 years. If I could remember, the amount of the prejudice was 6 billion euros. And we found in the database of the truck company that one entry was removed manually. So we were happy. The problem is that we didn't write it so clearly in the reporting that the prosecutor didn't catch it. And the prosecutor didn't use that argument in front of court. By chance, there is a second judgment, and we can explain clearly to the prosecutor the importance of that finding. So it means that it's quite easy to find things. It's quite boring to document all you find it. And it's a bit risky to provide an interpretation, but all those things needs to be done in order to facilitate the process of a judgment at court and to validate all those things. Interpretation is not easy at all. And I spoke only about the cookie, but if you speak about networks, traffics, DNS requests, all those new technologies coming in the chat system and so on, who is deciding about what? Is it the software? Is it the user? If two people are speaking together, what are the people deciding to save or not? All those things are important for the rule of law. So it's really a challenge for the law enforcement work. So what are the actors? Can you give me the time, remaining time? Yeah. I will make it short. But speaking about the actors, because I want that you leave the room after the questions with a positive impression, that you feel happy to be in EU. I looked at the US site, no, not the US, but yeah. Because we have a lot of organizations, sometimes complex, and as every time with a complex system, it takes time, but it works. It works because all those people have one aim, the rule of law and preserving, protecting the citizens in the EU and beyond. So you have, I will start with the bottom right side, Eurojust. Eurojust is an association of magistrates. I will explain why it's important in a bit, in a few seconds. Then you have Europol, and Europol has since 4 years now a new department which is called the European Cybercrime Center, so EC3, shorten it. And Europol is closely working with advisory groups, so the banking sector, the forensic software developers and so on, and with other entities like the EUCTF, that's the head of cybercrime units in EU, and Impact is a bit wider than that, but it has almost the same function. On another side, you have CPOL, which is the European College of Police, which is now with a new mandate, so it can work with a lot of different actors, including the judicials, and going now to practical trainings and courses. And then we have ECTEG, which is the organization that I have the honor to share since a few years with law enforcement entities and universities. Aalto-Yliopisto is not yet member, but I'm doing some lobbying, trying to catch them, but we have a lot of members. And the slides are not in the good order, but sorry for that, but you will see later. And the concept is that we are working hand in hand because we have the same aim. So no competition. At some point during years, there was competition between police forces only because funding, opportunity to train people and so on. The only competitor that we are allowed to have are the criminals, not the industry, and of course not the citizen, and of course not the other law enforcement agencies. And so there is some legislation, so you probably are already aware about the Budapest Convention. Who already heard about that? Nobody? So basically the Budapest Convention was created to facilitate information exchange between the countries to fight against child pornography and child abuse. But it was written in a way that you can use it for cyber attacks, for instance. And it's not limited to EU. A lot of countries are part of the Budapest Convention. And it works. Of course, it's a bit slow because it's a convention, and in some countries, the single point of contact is a prosecutor. In other countries, the single point of contact is the law enforcement. And so those people are not speaking the same language, so it can take time. Only technical language, and we don't speak about countries where the law enforcement cannot speak English very well, so they get a request that they don't understand well, so it takes time. Since 1 year now, we have the NIS directive. This directive, for the people involved in cybersecurity studies, is essential. Basically, it's a directive which has to be validated country by country. So they have to create on country level a law to deploy the directive at national level. But it is mainly intended to explain how to react for IT people in case of cyber attacks, with warning to governmental agencies and so on about potential issues. In most of the country, you will see now cybersecurity centers, which are depending or from the Prime Minister or from the Home Affairs, who are in charge to coordinate the work, including the work done by the CERTs, by the law enforcement, by the private sector, and by the victim to defend themselves and to start the investigation. And very recently, that's the GDPR, but the GDPR is about protecting the private data, so we are not speaking about all the types of data, so it can be a lot of things, including your IP addresses. IP addresses are de facto considered as private data by the GDPR. And as I said when I begin the presentation, the GDPR makes mandatory when there is a data leak to warn not only the government, but also the governmental agency, but also the people owning the private data. And it's quite logical. And it takes a lot of time, but no, it's a fact. And you will say, but it's only in EU. Not really. For instance, if you are an EU company and you want to have a call center, I don't know, a real case in Morocco, for instance, you are not allowed to have the call center in Morocco handling private data, so the phone number of your customers, the name, the address, the subscription number in the subscription. They are not allowed to handle that if they are not compliant with the GDPR. It means that outside, beyond EU, if they want to work with EU industry and with EU citizens' private data, they need to be compliant with the GDPR, which is a major step forward. And the EU funds also the operational answer. I spoke about the encryption issue. Europol will get 5 million euro only to increase the capacity to decrypt encryption things. And there will be money for the research about decryption too. And of course, it's not only enough because we need people to do the work. And of course, we need tools, but we need people trained and educated. And that's why the capacity building has a place. And that's why EU is funding that too. So in short, and I will look, yes, they are here. Because we get new members every 6 months, so I have to check if most of them, not all of them are here, so I probably forgot. Where is the Finnish Police University College? I think should be somewhere, or I forget it. Shame on me. But we put together law enforcement and universities, and we are around 33 or 34 members now working together to create training packages using only open source tools, so no commercial tools, because we don't want that the people push on the button. We want that the people understand what they are doing for 2 reasons: to master the tool and not to be the slave of the tool, and to be able to explain it in front of court all the things were done. So we are working more in an education process than a training process. Of course, education includes training. We are, of course, working with the networking, putting experts from different parts of academic world and the law enforcement world together. I always said, if you are an expert in your corner, you are always the expert of the corner, no more than that. Because in IT, you need to exchange the views with others, and you will always learn from the others. So it's quite impressive to see people contributing to develop training package, for instance, who are expert on topics. And we are coming back to the unit to handle operational case with a better knowledge, because there was, during the development of the course package, a lot of new knowledge was acquired. And of course, we are aiming to expertise. And I will finish with the importance, essential importance of the first responders. I don't speak about the IT crime first responders. I speak about the colleague in uniform on the street, the policeman on patrol, the people who receive the first complaint of the victim. Because I already explained that nowadays we have to, of course, do dead box forensics, but mainly it's live data forensics. And there is no way to send an expert on all crime scenes, large crime, severe crime, or small crimes. So somebody needs to do the work. Somebody needs to analyze the computer. Somebody needs to identify what needs to be seized, not to analyze what's seized, but to identify and seize it correctly so it can become an evidence, including trace, presented in front of court. And it's quite a challenging deal, because we are speaking about over 1 million police officers only in EU. And they don't all speak English. And of course, the modus operandi, so the way the criminals are attacking the things, we are not speaking about cyber attacks. We are speaking about people asking for money using fake emails or fake Facebook accounts, people stealing data and so on and so on. Stalking cases, which is quite a preoccupant part because you have suicides after stalking. And you have people who don't suicide, but for who the life will be destroyed for all of the rest of their life. So that's something that we need to stop, and it cannot be well done so far because the first responders are not yet educated for that. Something that I call the double victimization. If you, for instance, want to rent for your holidays a nice villa in Spain, and you use internet to do it, and you buy your flight tickets to Spain, and you arrive in Spain, you are happy with your baggages, and there is no villa at all at that address. Because it's quite easy to create some advertising to rent a villa in Spain, stealing pictures from villas somewhere, I don't know, in Portugal, and you know, the sun, white walls, and the sea, and the people will believe that it is Spain. But you already paid for that renting. So you are a bit sad. You probably stay in Spain, but you have to book a room in an hotel and so on. And when you come back to your country, because you don't speak Spanish, and you go to your country and you go to your police office and you say, I want to make a complaint. And the guy in front of you, and you are paid taxes for him or her, say, oh, I don't think it's a crime. Oh, I don't know how to handle that. So if you remember, I spoke about the one check mark in the statistics. We are a bit far now. We are speaking about how to handle the victims. So if you have this situation, you are a victim once by the criminal, and you are a victim by somebody for who you are paying taxes and who is not able to help you. So we have to fight that. We have to welcome the victims in a way that we can ask for with the good questions to gather the good answer and the needed traces or items to start the investigation. We can put check marks in front of the statistical survey for this type of crime so that the political level will understand that, for instance, the renting of fake villas in Spain becomes a threat this year, and that you can, for instance, make some spot on the TV saying, oh, be very careful with that and so on. So we have to train all those people to solve that problem. So that's why we are going to develop an e-learning package in so far 7 languages, no Finnish, Norwegian, English, French, Dutch. But if at some point the Swedish police want to join, we will of course consider to add them to the development of the package. So that's my conclusion. Dream. Dreamers are allowed. But you can dream to be a unicorn, that's not a problem. But the problem is that when you are in the real life, don't forget that when you are connected on the internet, when you are doing things with the Internet of Things, it is still the real life. And your responsibility is still the same. You are not by default innocent. You are not by default protected. And law enforcement can do nothing if you are not part of the ecosystem fighting against cybercrime. So if you have questions, I will be happy to answer. Technical ones or non-technical ones. Thank you.
Thank you.